The massive space station hung like a jewel against the darkness of space. Inside, Ambassador Paul Jenkins adjusted his collar and took a deep breath. The conference room was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Humans had only been part of the Galactic Conclave for 10 years, and already things were going poorly. Ambassador Jenkins, you must understand that humanity's request for exclusive mining rights in the aura and arms systems is simply unreasonable, said Zortak, the blue-scaled Valorian representative. His voice was smooth but carried a hint of condescension. Those systems are closer to our colonies than any of yours, Jenkins replied calmly. Our surveys found those resources first. The Zenturi delegate, a tall insect-like being named Critvex, made a clicking sound that their translator conveyed as laughter. And yet you lack the proper technology to extract those resources efficiently. Why waste what the galaxy needs on human inefficiency? Jenkins had been hearing variations of this argument for 3 days now. The Conclave treated humans like children who had wandered into an adult conversation. He looked down at the report in front of him, the one the alien representatives had dismissed without reading. Let's discuss the attack on our Proxima Centauri colony, Jenkins said, changing the subject. 47 people died. Shalon, the Mrelan representative whose species resembled tall, thin humans with silver skin, at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. A most unfortunate accident, she said. The Zenturi patrol mistook your outpost for a pirate base. An outpost with Earth flags and broadcasting standard identification signals, Jenkins noted. We've provided all evidence. Evidence that could easily be fabricated, Critvex said. Though we offer compensation as a gesture of goodwill. The offered compensation was displayed on Jenkins' tablet. It amounted to less than what Earth would pay for a minor industrial accident. The message was clear. Human lives were cheap in the eyes of the Conclave. Carol Winters, Jenkins' assistant, passed him a note. The news from Earth was grim. The Conclave had already granted preliminary mining rights to the Valorians while these negotiations were ongoing. It had been a stalling tactic all along. Ambassador, Zortak said, perhaps your people simply don't understand the complexities of galactic politics. This is why we suggest a 50-year mentorship period before humans are granted full Conclave membership. Jenkins looked at the faces around him. The Zenturi were barely hiding their satisfaction. The Valorians wore expressions of practiced patience. Only the Mrelans seemed genuinely concerned about maintaining relations. Is that your final position? Jenkins asked quietly. It is the position of the Conclave majority, Zortak replied. We have much to teach your species. Jenkins nodded slowly. He closed his tablet and placed it in his briefcase. The room fell silent as he methodically gathered his papers. Ambassador Jenkins, we haven't finished the session, Critvex said. I believe we have, Jenkins replied. He stood up and nodded to Carol, who also began packing her things. Humanity came to the Conclave in good faith. We sought friendship, trade, and mutual respect. And you have it, Zortak said quickly. This is merely a disagreement on terms. Jenkins closed his briefcase with a click that echoed in the suddenly quiet room. No, this is much more than that. You've shown us exactly what you think of humans and our place in the galaxy. You're overreacting, Critvex said, mandibles twitching nervously. Jenkins straightened his jacket and looked each alien representative in the eye. We came in good faith. Remember that. With those words, he turned and walked out of the room. Carol followed close behind. Neither looked back at the stunned silence they left behind. In the corridor, Carol whispered, What now, sir? Jenkins' face was calm, but his eyes were hard. Now we go home and prepare. They've made their choice. It's time we made ours. The door to the conference room slid shut behind them with a soft hiss. Inside, the representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy looked at each other in confusion. Surely the humans would return after they calmed down. Surely this was just a negotiating tactic. They were wrong. 1 week passed. Then 2. The Galactic Conclave waited for the humans to return. They didn't. In her office on the Earth Defense Headquarters Station, Admiral Lisa Garner reviewed the latest reports. Her gray eyes narrowed as she signed the final order. "Send this to all human ships currently on joint patrol missions," she told her communications officer. "Effective immediately, all vessels are to return to human space." "Yes, Admiral," the officer replied. "Should I include the reason?" "No," Garner said. "Let them wonder." Across human space, ships changed course. Diplomatic offices closed. Trade slowed to a trickle. Earth's colonies implemented strict new rules for alien visitors. On the Valorian homeworld, Trade Minister Vexlor paced nervously in his chamber. The latest reports showed human merchant ships canceling contracts worth billions. Human space stations were turning away Valorian vessels. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, over a simple diplomatic disagreement. His assistant entered the room. "Minister, the humans have just announced resource restrictions. They're cutting rare earth exports by 90%. Vexlor stopped pacing. "They can't do that. We need those materials for our new fleet." "They can, and they have," the assistant said. "And they're not answering our calls." In the Zenturi hive city of Kralvex, generals at Kral received similar news. The humans had closed their borders to Zenturi ships. The general's mandibles clicked in anger. "Send a diplomatic vessel to Earth," he ordered. "They must speak with us." 3 days later, the Zenturi ship arrived at Earth's orbital station. The massive ring-shaped structure usually bustled with ships from across the galaxy. Now it was eerily quiet, with only human vessels docking. "Zenturi vessel, this is Earth Orbital Control," came the message. "State your business." "We carry diplomatic representatives seeking audience with human leadership," the Zenturi captain replied. There was a long pause before the response came. "Earth Orbital Station is currently closed to non-human traffic. You are denied docking clearance." "This is outrageous," the Zenturi diplomat chittered. "We demand to speak with someone in authority." "Your demand is noted," came the cool reply. Communication channels remain open through standard diplomatic protocols. "Please direct all inquiries to the Earth Embassy AI system." "An AI system. They expect us to negotiate with a computer." The Zenturi ship had no choice but to turn back. On the Conclave Central World, representatives met in emergency session. The massive chamber felt strangely empty without the human delegates. "They're being childish," Zortak said. "Surely they'll return when they realize how this harms their economy." Shalon, the Mrelan representative, shook her silver head. "I warned against dismissing their concerns. Humans have a long memory for disrespect. What can they possibly do?" Critvex clicked dismissively. "Their technology is decades behind ours. Their military is tiny compared to the Conclave forces." "Is it?" Shalon asked quietly. "Have you actually studied human history?" The debate continued for hours, but nothing was resolved. The Conclave sent increasingly urgent messages to Earth. The replies were always the same: polite, brief, and completely unhelpful. Meanwhile, deep in human space, things were changing. Factories that once produced civilian goods now manufactured military components. Shipyards worked around the clock. Scientists who had been holding back their most advanced research now worked openly on new weapons and defense systems. In a secure meeting room on Luna Base, Ambassador Jenkins briefed the Earth Defense Council. "They still think we're having a tantrum," he said. "They expect us to come crawling back." "And when we don't?" asked General Frank Rivera. Jenkins smiled grimly. "Then we'll be ready when they come to us." On the borders of human space, automated beacons broadcast a simple message to any approaching ships: "You are entering human territory. Proceed at your own risk." The galaxy had never seen humans truly united before. They were about to. 6 months passed without a word from human diplomats. The galaxy grew nervous. Eric Mills floated in his research station near Jupiter. His eyes widened as he studied the energy readings on his screen. Something was happening in the space between Jupiter and Saturn. Something big. "Ben, are you seeing this?" he called to his colleague. Ben pushed off from the opposite wall and drifted over. "Those energy signatures are off the charts. What are they testing out there?" Eric shook his head. "Whatever it is, it's not in any public database." Far from Earth, alien merchants told strange stories. Human trading posts that once welcomed all species now turned away non-human ships. The few aliens allowed into human space reported massive construction projects, shipyards that weren't on any official maps, resource convoys moving under heavy guard. In the Grand Hall of the Valorian High Command, Ambassador Zortak addressed his leaders. "It has been 6 months since the humans left the negotiations," he said. "Our intelligence is limited, but concerning. They've closed their borders and recalled their people." The Supreme Commander leaned forward. "Are they planning war?" "Unknown," Zortak admitted. "But I recommend we send a probe to gather information." The command gave approval. 3 days later, a small Valorian probe slipped across the border into human space. Its stealth technology was the best in the galaxy. No one should have detected it. 6 hours after entering human territory, the probe went silent. 2 days later, the Valorians received a package at their embassy on the Conclave world. Inside was their probe, completely intact. A note was attached. "You dropped this in our yard. Please don't do it again." The Valorian scientists were shocked. Their probe had been captured intact, which meant human sensors had detected it, and human ships had intercepted it without the probe even noticing. That should have been impossible. On the Zenturi homeworld, General Zid Kral reviewed reports from scout ships. "Humans are mining in the Kuiper Belt systems," an officer reported. "Systems they never showed interest in before." "What resources are they extracting?" the general asked. "Mainly heavy metals and radioactive materials." The officer clicked nervously. The general's compound eyes narrowed. "Those were materials used for ship armor and weapons. They're just trying to become self-sufficient since they cut off trade," he said, but didn't sound convinced. "What can a single-planet species do anyway? Their colonies are tiny compared to ours." In a secure meeting room on Mars, human leaders gathered around a holographic display. Admiral Garner pointed to a series of blinking lights representing alien scout ships. "They're getting curious," she said. "The Zenturi have increased patrols near our outer mining operations." Defense Secretary Joe Miller nodded. "Are we ready?" "Almost," Garner replied. "The Jupiter fleet will be operational in 2 weeks. The stealth ships are already deployed." On the Conclave world, an unusual meeting took place. Kesta, a researcher from a minor species, had requested time to address the full conclave. Such requests were rarely granted, but his message had intrigued enough representatives. The small, furry alien stood nervously before the gathered diplomats. "I spent the last 6 months studying human history," he began. "I believe we have severely misunderstood them." Crit Vex made a dismissive gesture. "They're primitive. What is there to understand?" Kista activated a holographic display. It showed scenes from human history. Battles, wars, destroyed cities. "Humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years," he explained. "They've developed warfare to an art form. While they were struggling for resources on their home planet, they became experts at conflict." The images changed to show nuclear explosions, space battles from human entertainment, military parades. The humans who joined the conclave had united their planet after centuries of war, Kesta continued. "They came to us having already mastered the art of destruction." His voice grew quiet. "And we treated them like children." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. For the first time, the conclave species felt a hint of genuine worry about what they might have started. After Kista's presentation, the conclave chamber buzzed with nervous conversation. The Mrilan representative, Shalon, listened quietly to the worried whispers around her. Then she made a decision. That night, a small Mrilan ship left the conclave world. It traveled a secret path to a distant star system where no official records showed any habitation. There, in the shadow of a gas giant, waited a human vessel. Captain Susan Kelly watched the Mrilan ship approach. "They came alone," she confirmed. "No followers." Her second-in-command nodded. "Still, we should be careful." Kelly agreed. The meeting had been arranged through channels so secret that not even the Earth Defense Council knew about them. Only a handful of humans had maintained quiet contact with the Mrilan since the withdrawal. The Mrilan ship docked with Kelly's vessel. Shelon entered alone, her silver skin shimmering under the ship's lights. "Captain Kelly," she said with a slight bow. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." Kelly nodded. "Ambassador Shelon, what was so urgent that you risked this contact?" Shalon's expression was grave. "The Zenturi are planning a strike against Earth. They call it preemptive self-defense." Kelly's face showed no surprise. "We've been expecting something like this. Do you have details?" "3 fleet groups will target your outer colonies first," Shelon explained. "They believe destroying your resource operations will force you back to the negotiating table." Kelly activated a small device. A holographic map appeared between them. "Show me where." Shalon pointed to several locations. Kelly marked them on the map. "Why are you telling us this?" Kelly asked. "The Mrilan have been conclave members for centuries." Shalon looked down. "My people were once like yours. We joined the conclave seeking friendship. We found something else." She looked up. "We cannot stand by while the Zenturi and Valorians repeat their mistakes." Kelly studied the Mrilan carefully. "What do you want in return?" "Peace," Shalon said simply. "And perhaps an alliance." 2 days later, on the conclave world, Shalon entered the Great Chamber. The session was already underway, with Crit Vex arguing for stronger measures against the humans. "They must be shown their place," the Zenturi representative was saying. "Their isolation harms trade throughout the sector." Shalon walked to the center of the room. "The Mrilan Confederation has something to say." All eyes turned to her. The Mrilan rarely made dramatic statements. "For 900 years, we have been members of this conclave," she began. "We joined seeking cooperation and understanding. Instead, we have watched as species after species was exploited, their resources taken, their sovereignty ignored." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Zortak stood. "This is not the topic of today's session." Shalon continued as if she hadn't heard. "We watched in silence too long. We will watch no more." She raised her voice. "The Mrilan Confederation formally withdraws from the Galactic Conclave, effective immediately." The chamber erupted in shock. No major species had ever left the Conclave. "You cannot do this." Crit Vex chittered angrily. "We already have," Shalon replied calmly. Then she turned and walked out. Back on Earth, Admiral Garner reviewed the latest intelligence with her staff. "The Mrilan have left the Conclave," she announced, just as Captain Kelly reported they would. Defense Secretary Miller nodded. "And the Zenturi fleet movements?" "Exactly where the Mrilan said they would be," Garner replied. "They're gathering for an attack." "Do we warn our colonies?" someone asked. Garner smiled grimly. "No need. The defenses are already in place." She turned to her communications officer. "Send the activation codes to all outer system commanders. Operation Watchful Eye begins now." In the darkness of space, invisible to Zenturi sensors, human ships powered up weapons that no alien had ever seen before. The first true test of humanity's resolve was about to begin. The Zenturi attack fleet moved silently toward the human mining colony on Titan Beta, 300 ships strong. It was the largest force ever sent against a single planet species. General Zitkrau watched from the command ship with satisfaction. "The humans will learn their lesson today," he told his officers. "Our scouts report minimal defenses. They don't expect us." His tactical officer nodded. "We will be in firing range in 10 minutes, General." On Titan Beta, The mining colony appeared quiet. Only a few ships moved around the small space station. Nothing suggested the humans knew what was coming. Lieutenant Ryan Cooper sat in the control center beneath the colony's surface. Around him, 50 men and women monitored screens showing the approaching Centauri fleet. "They're right on schedule," Cooper said into his communicator. "All units confirm ready status." One by one, the hidden defense platforms reported in. Cooper smiled. The Centauri thought they were attacking a simple mining operation. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "All units, weapons free," Cooper ordered. "Execute Plan Hornet's Nest." In space, the first Centauri ships entered the colony's orbit. General Zitkral gave the order: "Open fire. Destroy their facilities." The Centauri weapons powered up. But before they could fire, space itself seemed to shimmer around them. Suddenly, defensive platforms appeared where nothing had been visible before. They had been there all along, hidden by stealth technology, beyond anything the Centauri had seen. "What is this?" Zitkral demanded. "Where did those come from?" The answer came in the form of energy beams that sliced through the front line of Centauri ships. Unlike conventional weapons, these beams ignored shields completely. Shields failing, weapons offline. Reports flooded in from across the fleet. From behind Titan Beta's moon, a squadron of human ships appeared. They were smaller than the Centauri vessels, but moved with incredible speed. Their weapons tore through the surprised alien fleet. Cooper watched the battle unfold on his screens. "Launch Phase 2, he ordered. Hundreds of small drones deployed from the defense platforms. They swarmed like insects around the Centauri ships, attaching to hulls and disabling systems. On his flagship, General Zitkral watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. "Retreat. All ships, retreat immediately." But it was too late. The human forces had encircled them. Of the 300 ships that had entered the system, barely 50 managed to escape. News of the defeat spread quickly through the galaxy. The Conclave called an emergency session. "Impossible." Critvex clicked angrily. The humans must have had help. Their technology was nowhere near this advanced. Zortak looked grim. "Reports say they used weapons that ignored our shields. How is this possible?" As they argued, a message arrived from Earth. Admiral Garner's face appeared on the main screen in the conclave chamber. "This is Admiral Lisa Garner of Earth Defense Forces," she said calmly. "Your unprovoked attack on our colony has been repelled. Consider this your only warning." "Warning?" Zortak sputtered. "You dare threaten the conclave?" Garner's expression didn't change. "This is not a threat. It is a fact. Attack us again, and your forces will be destroyed. You started this. We'll finish it." The transmission ended. The chamber erupted in angry shouts and accusations. Meanwhile, at the Jupiter shipyards, humans unveiled their greatest achievement. The massive warship Sword of Terra moved out of its construction dock for the first time. At 5 kilometers long, it dwarfed anything humans had built before. Its hull gleamed with a metal unknown to the rest of the galaxy. Captain Samantha Woods stood on the bridge, watching as the final systems came online. "All departments report ready, Captain," her first officer said. Woods nodded. "Begin patrol route. Let's show the galaxy that humanity is done being pushed around." As the enormous ship moved toward the outer system, a message went out to all human forces. Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2. For the first time since joining the galactic community, humanity was showing its true strength. And the galaxy trembled. A year passed since the battle at Titan Beta. The galaxy learned to fear humans. On the Valorian homeworld, military leaders gathered around a holographic display showing the movements of human ships. Many red dots blinked across the map, appearing in systems where they shouldn't be. "How are they moving so fast?" asked Supreme Commander Vorkal. "No ship can cross that distance in such a short time." The science advisor shook his head. "They must have developed new FTL technology. Something we haven't seen before." "Impossible," Vorkal muttered. but didn't sound convinced. Nothing seemed impossible for humans anymore. In deep space, Colonel Michelle Sanders led a small fleet of human ships. Unlike the massive Sword of Terra, these vessels were built for speed and stealth. They moved like shadows through alien territory. "New orders from command," her communications officer said. "We're to disrupt supply lines in the Centauri outer systems." Sanders nodded. "Perfect. They won't expect us there." She turned to her tactical officer. "Plot a course. Use the new jump points." The officer entered commands, and the stars around them blurred. When they reappeared, they were deep in Centauri space. No one saw them arrive. No sensors detected their presence. On Earth, Dr. Alan Winters led a team of scientists and engineers in a vast underground facility. Surrounding them were powerful computers unlike anything seen before. "Show me the current battle simulations," Winters instructed. A holographic display appeared, showing thousands of ships moving in complex patterns. The AI system processed millions of scenarios per second, predicting enemy movements with frightening accuracy. "The Centauri will try to retake their fuel depot at Sigma 9, the AI announced. "Probability, 87.3%. Winters nodded. "Send the data to Admiral Garner. Recommend we position the Third Fleet to intercept." Back in the conclave chamber, representatives from 20 species argued loudly. Fear had replaced arrogance in their voices. "The humans have blockaded the Centauri homeworld." One shouted. "Nothing gets in or out without their permission." "Their ships appear from nowhere," another added. "Our sensors can't track them." Zortak, once confident and dismissive, now looked tired and worried. "We must negotiate," he said, "before they come for us next." "Negotiate?" Critvex clicked angrily. "They won't even answer our calls. All we get is that automated response." On a small moon orbiting Jupiter, Ambassador Paul Jenkins watched a recording of the conclave session. Next to him stood Admiral Garner. "They're finally taking us seriously," Jenkins observed. Garner nodded. "Fear is a powerful teacher." "But not what we wanted," Jenkins sighed. "We came seeking respect, not terror." "Sometimes people only understand strength," Garner replied. "You gave peace every chance. They gave us every reason for war." In a distant system, a human patrol encountered a Valorian science vessel. Captain Greg Porter hailed them. "Valorian vessel, this is Captain Porter of Earth Defense Forces. State your business in this system." The Valorian captain appeared on screen, clearly nervous. "We are on a scientific mission. We have no hostile intent." Porter checked his orders. "This system wasn't restricted yet. Proceed with your mission, but be advised. Any scanning of human installations is prohibited." The Valorian looked relieved. "Understood, Captain. Thank you." After the transmission ended, Porter's first officer looked surprised. "We're letting them go." Porter nodded. "Not everyone is our enemy. The scientists just want to study the nebula. Let them." This small moment of mercy spread through Valorian space, stories of human restraint alongside tales of human power. The galaxy began to understand. Humans didn't want destruction. They wanted respect. On the Centauri homeworld, food supplies dwindled under the human blockade. The ruling council met in emergency session. "We must surrender," said one council member, "before our people starve." "Never," General Zitkral hissed. "The conclave will send help." But no help came. The conclave was fracturing, with many species seeking separate peace with the humans. A junior officer entered the council chamber. "Sirs, we've detected a transmission from the human fleet. They're broadcasting on all frequencies." The message was simple. "We gave peace every chance. Surrender and live." For the first time in their history, the proud Centauri faced a force they could not defeat. The galaxy was changing forever. The Centauri surrender came 3 days later. Their proud warrior culture had never known defeat until they met humans. Now their ships sat idle in orbit, weapons powered down, as human vessels moved freely through their space. In the Grand Hall of the Centauri High Command, General Zit Krall removed his ceremonial armor and placed it before Admiral Garner. "The Centauri Collective surrenders to Earth," he said, his voice filled with bitterness. "Our forces stand down." Garner nodded. "The terms are simple: disarmament of your military fleet, human oversight of your remaining ships, free passage for all human vessels through your territory." "You destroy us as a power," Zit Krall clicked angrily. "No," Garner replied calmly. "We prevent you from destroying others. There's a difference." News of the Centauri surrender spread quickly. 5 more species withdrew from the conclave the next day, seeking separate peace with humanity. The once mighty alliance was crumbling. On the Mrelan homeworld, human ships arrived not as conquerors but as allies. Captain Susan Kelly met with Shalon in the Silver Gardens of the Mrelan capital. "Your warning about the Centauri attack saved many lives," Kelly said. "Earth remembers its friends." Shalon smiled. "And what of its former enemies?" "That depends on them," Kelly replied. "We never wanted war, just respect." In the Valorian High Command, panic spread. The Centauri had fallen. Many smaller species had made peace with humans. The Mrelan had become human allies. Now human ships were seen near Valorian space. "We must strike first," urged General Calvor. "Hit their homeworld before they hit ours." Zortak, who had returned from the conclave to advise his government, shook his head. "That would be suicide. Did you learn nothing from the Centauri defeat? Then what do you suggest?" The Supreme Leader demanded. "A final diplomatic effort," Zortak said. "One last attempt to avoid their wrath." The Valorian High Command agreed. They assembled their greatest fleet, over 500 ships, and sent it toward Earth, not to attack, but to show strength while their diplomats made one last attempt at negotiation. The massive fleet never reached the solar system. As they passed through the Arcturus Junction, they found themselves surrounded. Human ships appeared from all directions, and among them were Mrelan vessels. Admiral Garner's face appeared on the Valorian commander's screen. "Valorian Fleet, this is Admiral Lisa Garner of Earth Defense Forces. Your presence this close to Earth with such a large force is considered an act of aggression." The Valorian commander stammered. "We come seeking peace talks. The fleet is merely an escort." 500 warships is not an escort," Garner replied coldly. "It is an invasion force." "We will not attack," the commander promised. "We seek only to protect our diplomats." Garner was silent for a moment. Then she said, "You have 2 choices, unconditional surrender or unconditional defeat. You have 1 hour to decide." On the Valorian homeworld, the High Command received the message with horror. "Can we win?" The Supreme Leader asked his generals. The room was silent. Finally, the chief strategist spoke. "Their technology exceeds ours. Their tactics confound us. And now they have allies." He looked down. "No, we cannot win." 1 hour later, the Valorian fleet powered down its weapons. Not a single shot had been fired. The mightiest military force in the conclave had surrendered without a battle. In his office on Luna Base, Ambassador Jenkins received the news with mixed feelings. "So the Valorians have surrendered too," he said to his aide. "Yes, sir. Admiral Garner says they're accepting all our terms." Jenkins nodded slowly. "Then it's time. Send a message to the remaining conclave members. Tell them Earth is ready to return to the negotiating table." His aide looked surprised. "Sir," Jenkins smiled. "That was always the plan. We didn't leave to start a war. We left to ensure a fair peace." He looked out the window at the blue Earth hanging in space. "Now we'll get one." 5 years had passed since humans walked away from the negotiating table. Now they returned, but everything had changed. The new Galactic Charter signing ceremony took place on a neutral space station. Representatives from 37 species gathered in the Grand Hall. At the center table sat Ambassador Paul Jenkins, flanked by Admiral Garner and Captain Samantha Woods. Across from them sat the remaining conclave leaders, including Zortak of the Valorians. The once proud diplomat now looked humble. "Let us begin," Jenkins said calmly. The room fell silent. This was not a negotiation. It was humans explaining how things would be. "The Orion Arm is now recognized as human territory," Jenkins stated. "All mining rights and colonization within this region require human approval." No one objected. After seeing what happened to the Zenturi and Valorians, no species dared to challenge humans now. "The Marillion Confederation will have protected status as our allies," Jenkins continued. "Any action against them will be considered an action against Earth." Shalon nodded from her position at the human table. The silver-skinned diplomat had become humanity's closest friend in the galaxy. "Furthermore, all major species will undergo monitored disarmament," Admiral Garner added. "Military vessels will be reduced by 60%. Weapons research will be subject to oversight." Zortak finally spoke. "You ask us to make ourselves defenseless." "No," Jenkins replied. "We ask you to make yourselves peaceful. There's a difference." The terms continued. Trade routes would be open to all. Resources would be shared based on need rather than power. The conclave would be reorganized into a galactic alliance with equal representation for all species, regardless of size or military strength. Captain Woods outlined the technology sharing program. "Humans will provide FTL drive improvements and medical advancements to all alliance members," she explained. "In return, we expect full cooperation with the new charter." When the terms were complete, Jenkins looked around the room. "Any questions?" A small representative from a minor species raised a hand. "Why are you not punishing us more harshly? You could rule the galaxy now." Jenkins smiled slightly. "That was never our goal. Humans don't want to rule. We want to live in peace with equals." The charter was signed without further discussion. As the ceremony ended, Zortak approached Jenkins privately. "I must know," the Valorian said quietly. "How did you advance so quickly? When you left the table, your technology was decades behind ours." Jenkins looked at him steadily. "It wasn't. We simply didn't show everything we had. On Earth, we learned long ago to keep something in reserve when dealing with potential enemies." "We were never your enemies," Zortak protested. "No, you dismissed our concerns. You attacked our colony. You treated us as lesser beings." Jenkins shook his head. "Those are not the actions of friends." 3 months later, the first class of alien students arrived at the Human Diplomatic Academy on Mars. Young representatives from 20 species came to learn from humans. Captain Woods, now serving as the Academy's director, addressed them on their first day. "Welcome to Earth space," she said. "You are here because your people want to understand humans better. That's good. Understanding prevents conflict." A young Valorian raised his hand. "Is it true humans were preparing for war even while seeking peace?" Woods nodded. "An old human saying is hope for peace, prepare for war. We always prefer peace, but we are always ready if peace fails." On the newly established Alliance headquarters world, Jenkins and Shalon walked together through a garden. At its center, they stopped to plant a small tree brought from Earth. "Will it grow here?" Shalon asked. "With care and patience," Jenkins replied. "Like peace." As they patted soil around the sapling's roots, ships from dozens of species passed overhead. Some carried diplomats, others transported goods. None carried weapons of war. The galaxy had finally understood. Humans had never sought conflict. They had simply refused to accept disrespect. In walking away from the table, they had created a path back to it, on better terms. The tree would grow, and so would understanding.